Welcome, welcome, welcome. You listen to the Ask Brien radio show on KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM. And every week since, let's see, Andrew, it's been how many years? Can you, oh, he's got his fingers out. Okay, yeah, it's been since January 2016. 17, I should say. So that's what, how many years? Can he calculate? Oh, he's got to get his calculator out. He doesn't know how to do it. All right, well, we'll figure it out. It's always good to have the head engineer being able to, not being good at math. I mean, what more could he want? All right, so each week now for many, many years, because he can't calculate it out, we've been having the Ask Brien radio show on KHTS, and each week it's a business show, and we try to help people learn something about business. Sometimes we'll have a founder on or a startup person who's just trying to introduce something out that has been very, very successful, and they want to let everybody know what's going on. But each week we try to help business owners. That's our goal each week. And we are spelling our name ASKBRIEN because the only way to spell Brien is with an E. People that spell it BRYIN or BRIN, they just don't know how to spell. Maybe they're using the autocorrect on Apple. I don't know what's going on. But Brien is only spelled with an E, so I don't know why. Why people can't understand that Brien is spelled EN and not AN, RIN or YAN or whatever it is. So, Traci, some people want to know why there's an E in Brien, and you have some of the reasons. I wanted to try to figure out what it is.
Well, I mean, I think we would be just absolutely remiss if we did not start with the E for engineer, right?
You know, that's the only button that the engineer does. The only time the engineer ever does that is when it's for the engineer. Like for all the other ones, he doesn't remember. It's like
I have to say, I did kind of notice that because we have lots of other things that we can celebrate. But whenever we talk about the engineer, we get really good crowd noise. So I don't know about that.
Right, but I don't hear it too often when we say yours. You know, so we're gonna have to figure that out when we get to it at the end.
Okay, well, but the real E, the E that we need to focus on, is expert. And we have so many great experts that are guests on our show. And, you know, the word expert gets thrown around a lot these days, like I'm a guru, I'm an expert, I'm a subject matter expert, I'm a thought leader, all these things. But we know, you and me, that the expert is defined by a very specific mathematical formula, which is you're investing 10,000 hours in your business category or your niche or your industry. And in order to accomplish that, you need to invest approximately 40 hours a week over the course of 52 weeks. So that math would take you all the way up to 5 years. And you and I both know, and everybody on the show has confirmed and told us so, that nobody's spending 40 hours when they're starting a business. They're spending way more than that. And so I'm thinking that learning curve gets shortcut by about 2 years, so 3 years to be an expert and get your 10,000 hours. Would you agree?
Well, I would agree, but I know for a fact that the engineer can't figure out that 23 minus 17 is 6, and I'm certain that he can't figure those numbers out because those are way, way over his head, and he's the engineer.
Okay. So. All right. Well, I'm going to have to skip. I'm going to come back to a couple of the other E's, but I'm going to have to skip to empathy for a second because
what is that?
What is your deal? Just driving the engineer down so hard today. You're not showing very much empathy.
The truth hurts. The truth hurts. Be real.
Okay. So
if you can't take it with us, then you can't take it at all.
So our top three, so we have engineer, we have expert, and definitely our top three is education. And that's what we're all about on the Ask Brien show. We really, contrary to popular belief on how we open this show, education is our primary objective.
I don't know. You were laughing so hard I couldn't. You said something about education. What? That you don't have an education? What?
No, of course I have an education. I might not be a scholarly attorney, but I have an education in extensive amount of 10,000 times a million hours in communications, which is my education path.
And extensive has an E in it too, by the way.
Yes, it does. And we have an extensive library of E's, one of which has to do with how we feel like enthusiasm or excitement or, I'm sorry, which one is the one that you like to choose?
Excitement!
I'm so sorry, listeners. I really don't know why I subjected you to that, but I did, and it's my fault.
Have you ever heard of these people don't remember that there used to be a guy named the Screamer, Sam Kinison. He was the Screamer. That's who we are.
Yeah.
And I could have said, I could have said Good Morning Vietnam like Robin Williams.
You could have. I'm glad you didn't.
Well, we're not in Vietnam.
Just to be clear, there's no we in Screamer. It's you.
But there is an E in we.
There is an E in we, but it's an E little we. It's a wee little E.
Ooh.
Okay, this is getting ridiculous. Let's move on.
Well, there are a couple of E's that you haven't left out, and we got to go quick because our guest is going, what did I get myself into? Why am I here? And I'll never do this again. But anyway, one of the reasons why we have an E in Brien is for entrepreneur. So all of these people that are watching the show, many, many entrepreneurs are watching it, okay? And we're not going to go through all the ones of excellence and experience because we got to go on and move on. But we do want to go over Traci's, and we're going to get a little crowd laugh after we announce it. But grease lighting is what?
Electrifying.
A little delayed response there, but we're getting there. We're getting there. We have to train the engineer.
It just gets me every time.
All right. Well, without any further ado, and how do you spell that?
ADIEU.
See, we're like Sesame Street for adults. All right. All right. So
I had to stop and think about the I before E, except after C. That's why I said it so slowly.
Well, that's how we educate people. Anyway, is our guest there, Alex?
I am here. How are you?
And Alex has an E in his name too. Anyway,
I do.
Wow.
He has a wee little E.
Ooh. Okay, it's okay to insult me. It's not okay to insult the special guest. Are you a laughing hyena? I think today you're a laughing hyena. All right, so.
I think I can't help it because you're just making me laugh, and I really didn't realize what I was saying when I said what I said.
Well, some people said I should have become a comedian and given up law, but anyway, we can't. That'll be another show because we need to have a shrink on. But anyway, Alex, so what we wanted to discuss with you today, you have a vast amount of experience, sales, marketing, operations, building things. You're an engineer too, I think. So the big question is, how do people get business? So let's start out with, just a furniture store down the street, okay? Maybe he has the internet, maybe he doesn't. How is the furniture store down the street going to get business? What do they need to do? Give us some. Try to figure that out. I know I threw you a curveball, but I love throwing curveballs because curve has an E in it.
You should have played baseball. Never mind that attorney thing. No, I think that's a really good question. In today's world, we're talking about digital marketing for the most part, or just marketing in general. If you want to build a business, what you have to do is you have to get leads. And if you want to get leads, you have to be able to attract people. And if you want to attract people or eyeballs into people, you have to have some familiarity with what you're doing, whether your business is selling furniture or refinishing furniture, a sales or a service. People have to know about you. And if they don't know about you, you can have a hard time at it. The furniture business, as you mentioned, some of that is about having, a good presence, location. It used to be in the good old days, it was location, location, location. Today in the web, in the internet, your location could be your website. So realistically, you have to leverage what you do best and get your message out there to as many people as you can. And there's a bunch of ways to do that. And there's digital ways of doing it. There's traditional marketing ways of doing it. And, of course, nothing is better than firsthand experience, meaning reviews and people who are already promoting you. So lots of ways that we can discuss on how to do that.
So let's start out with the, and we're going to go a different route today. So how do you get reviews?
So that's a good question. So the first thing is you have to have a presence, right? So let's start with the basics of that. So what do you do, and how do you tell people about it? So again, one of the things, the biggest mistake that people make in marketing is thinking, well, I've got money this quarter, and I'm going to spend it on marketing, and it's going to give me results this quarter, or maybe even next quarter. And it doesn't quite work like that. Where sales are something where the results happen relatively quickly, or should happen relatively quickly. Your time to close should be shorter than you want. Furniture store, someone walks in the door, they walked in that door because they want to look at furniture, and it's up to you to make sure you close that sale, right? But in marketing, it's often, well, I have furniture, but maybe I'm moving in a year, and I remember the name of, Brian's Furniture Store with an E because I remember the E gig, and I remember that little bit, and so I think about that again. So marketing is really all about getting familiarity. So familiarity, is something that will always breed people's sales. So when you're talking about getting reviews, it's encouraging them. So if you have people, if you're mostly a brick and mortar store and you have people coming in to the store, you can literally entice them to go digital, assuming you have a place for them to land in a digital means to be able to get your reviews. So, there's popular places. I mean, Yelp is a great place for reviews. Google reviews is another great place that people look at. If you're a furniture store selling on Amazon, Amazon reviews are there. All those review sites are good, and then you can never forget about your own website, because if you can do, and we'll talk about SEO, I'm sure, if you can talk about someone searching for it, reviews are ranked higher than the actual results of the store. So, getting people to do it, well, the best way to do it is always the way that you do it. Great service. But in the most part, you really want to entice them and have a reason for them to leave a review, and there's lots of ways of doing that.
So, two things. One is any one of them better than the other? You mentioned Google, you mentioned Yelp. I'm not going to go to your website because obviously your website would be number one. But among outside third parties, not your website itself, you've got Yelp, you've got Google. I don't know what else is out there. Do you think Google is probably number one, or do you think Yelp is number one in terms of getting? Where do you want the review placed? If you have a choice.
That is actually a fantastic question, and it really depends on the type of audience you have. So we're talking about what we'll call B2C, or business to consumer. In the consumer sense, consumer behavior is something that companies like Google and others have spent literally hundreds of billions of dollars to master and to understand. And for the most part, all the review sites get used equally, but a lot of people will just use the number one search engine in the world, which is Google, and they'll ask that question: what is the best, recliner in the world? And that's what they'll ask. So they'll say, what's the best recliner value? I'm talking furniture now, right? What's the best leather recliner? What's the best fabric recliner? They'll ask those things, and you'll find there are a number of sites that people can either pay to be on, or sometimes you actually own those sites, and they'll be like, best recliners of 2023. And you'll actually literally go there before you'll even go to a review site, and then it'll usually push you to some company where there'll be the review. Now, one of the things that I do believe work really well and they tie into reviews is that if you sell certain brands, you definitely want to be on there where to buy. And that's one of the cheapest, if you're a brick and mortar, especially something like a furniture store, you want to get with the manufacturer because they're the ones that are going to spend the most advertising dollars no matter where it is, and you want to leverage them. I mean, it's always about leverage. So when you're talking about Google reviews, you're talking about Yelp, there's a number of other ones that are out there. For the most part, they're all about equal. People will look at all of them. They'll spend a couple minutes. They're never going to just usually rely on one. There's a new technology called Best Reviews out there. You can literally go there and pay them, and they will build a site for you for the best review of a certain product. And then the other question is, and I'll make it short there, the question is, are you selling your own product or are you selling someone else's product? If you're selling your own product, you're going to go about things completely different than if you're selling someone else's product. And that's, again, if you're selling someone else's, you want to rely on the manufacturer to help you market, if that makes sense.
So now a slightly different question, but still on that review section. I come to the website. I've never been to Brian's Furniture, and I see 19 reviews. Okay, how do I know they're legit?
Well, that's always the problem, right? I mean, Amazon gets a lot of this, right? They say these are paid reviews, these are fake reviews.
Fake.
I mean, let's face it. You have to look at the numbers, and that's the fact. So this is a very interesting thing. You know, there's tells. If it's a first name only, and it praises 100%, and it's let's say the first review, and it's up at the top, I take it with a grain of salt, right? But you're not going to really know. No, law of numbers says the more reviews someone has, the more believable they'll be. You know, I'll use the Amazon trade of this. When someone has 100% and they have five-star reviews versus someone who has 1,000 reviews and half of them are 3s and half of them are 2s and half of them are 5s, I'll buy the product that has 1,000 reviews first. And that's just because no one's going to fake up 1,000 reviews. Not that you can't with technologies like AI today, but most people won't do that. I mean, really, the other way that you have to go is affiliates. So affiliates, I was mentioning early on that depending on where you are, whether you're advertising for yourself or having someone else do it, if you're selling a product or you're selling a service and someone else independently talks about it, such as an affiliate or someone reviews a product on, say, YouTube, you can pretty much read between the lines, as you love to say, and you can actually tell whether they're being honest or dishonest about it. And the more affiliate reviews you get, the better it's going to be. I mean, today, if I'm buying something, I'll use the number 2 search engine in the world, which is YouTube, and I will look for a review. And I will usually be very cautious, as most consumers are, to look for people who are more trustworthy, have a lot of subscribers, and are there. And they'll usually, as an affiliate, give a relatively accurate review of a product or a service. And that's really where a lot of people are going today. You're finding that far more often as the believable sense than even in Yelp or Google.
Oh, those are very interesting points. The question I have is, how does somebody who's starting out, so you've got 10 reviews, according to you, you're never going to get up there in the range because people are going to be looking at the site and they're going to say, well, there's only got 10 reviews, so I'm not going to buy that. How is that person with 10 reviews ever going to make it?
Well, it depends on what you're doing, right? Like if we're talking about Brian's Furniture, we realize that's a local establishment. It's not worldwide, right? You're going to have less people. You have to work on your quality of reviews. And again, there are services that will help you, and they're relatively inexpensive. They'll help you structure those reviews. They'll actually work with your customers to structure those reviews as very positive. I mean, it's a garbage in, garbage out. If you don't ask the right questions, you don't get the right answers. So if you give people a form to fill out, a lot of times you can do this on the phone. You ask those questions. How was the service? How was the product? How was the delivery? All the things that people care about, and those are the pieces people want. So 10 reviews that have more relevant information are still better than 1,000 reviews where they go, it was great. So that someone who doesn't have 1,000 reviews, I would always ask them to structure the reviews so they cover the points that people care about most. And that's up to you to do. I mean, it's just if you're a salesperson, a general manager, an owner of a company, you know what questions you're going to ask someone. And you know what questions you get all the time. How good is the product? What is the warranty? What's the delivery look like? What's the availability look like? You know, how do I pay for it? What's the flexibility of that? All those things that people care about, you should always cover in every single review. Again, it becomes this frequency builds familiarity, which is one of the top, what I like to call one of the legs of the stool of marketing, is the more frequency you have. That's why you just don't spend the money in one quarter and expect results the next. You take a small part of your budget every quarter and spend it. The same thing is the more familiar people are and the more frequent they hear the same information, the more they'll remember it. The more, exciting it becomes and excellent it becomes. So that's part of that as a teaching moment. Always have that. And again, part of this is that you can reinforce this even if you're a small local business through email marketing, which is always important, affiliates and influencers, which are important. And then if you can afford it, one of the greatest marketing tools for local is radio advertising. And especially if you can have someone who's not you, your customer, also get up there and talk about how great the experience was. So there's a lot of ways to do that to get feet in the door. And then, of course, you have to work on the other piece, which is the most important, which is conversion. Converting something that's a lead into a sale, and that's really what marketing is really all about.
Well, we got to take
not all about getting leads.
Alex, we got to take a break. We're going to continue this conversation. You're listening to KHTS 1220, 98.1 FM. Welcome back. You're listening to the Ask Brien radio show on KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM. Like no other station in the world. We don't like no other station in the world. Because who else has that expression? All right. Traci, are you there?
I'm still chuckling. Yep. I'm
okay.
here.
Well, Traci likes to pivot. And she's going to take another pivot, and we're going to continue with the interview of Mr. Alex Grossman. And Traci, go ahead.
Yeah, so, I love a pivot, but what I love more than anything is three legs of a three-legged stool. And I feel like that we only really ventured into one of them, and nobody needs a lopsided stool. So let's talk through those other two legs of the marketing stool, Alex.
Sounds good, Traci. Yeah, the stool is way more stable with more legs than one. Usually don't fall over. But the first leg of that marketing stool is always frequency. So the more frequency you do, again, taking your budget and allocating it weekly or monthly or quarterly to, well, I hate to use the term advertising, but just awareness, right? To awareness, however you want to call that. That's number one. Number two, the second leg of the stool is brand. If people don't know who you are and don't remember who you are, it's very, very difficult for them to have recall at a later date. If we're talking about Brian's Furniture Store, people don't buy furniture every day, but they buy it when they move. They buy it every couple of years. Sometimes they buy it when they have new things like new babies or get married or get divorced, whatever it's going to be. They're often doing that, but they have to remember what they heard and where they are. So brand's important. And then the third thing is message. And message is really what you stand for. Some people call it your mission statement. Some people call it your value plank. Some people call it your value proposition. But it's really something very simple and easy, that catchphrase that gets people to understand what you do and where you are. And everybody can think of that. I worked for a company that's really good on brand and message. It's called Apple. I spent a lot of years there. And
I never heard of that.
And you know the brand, right? I mean, they don't have to tell you the brand. You see the Apple, and you pretty much know what it stands for. It means it's, whether you love it or hate it, it's going to be high end and it's going to work. And they always, one of their messages for a long time is it just works. And people know that, and they associate that. They don't feel bad. They don't go, what's the feature list of this iPhone? They just go, ooh, the new iPhone came out. I got to buy it because I know it's going to work. It's from Apple. And so I'm not saying that someone just starting out can get to that brand or that, but there are ways of actually getting there. So you look at those three legs of the stool, frequency to build familiarity so that people are used to hearing the name and hearing the message, then the brand, the name, who you stand for, that message. And then, of course, the last piece is what is that message, And if it's Brian's Furniture, great furniture at great prices, that'll be something people can associate with, right? Best quality, lowest price. It's the new and improved message. There's a reason that when you walk into a supermarket or a store and you look on the shelves, you'll probably find new and improved on 100 different products for the last 25 years. You think they're really new and improved? I'm not going to go there, but I would say that they know that works. You know, the big joke in advertising used to be if you put live nude girls, you know, in front of anything, people would stop and look. Well, you know, Brien would.
Well, of course I would.
And look, so
I'm looking now. I'm looking now while you're doing that, this interview. What are you talking about?
We have marginally stepped in the gutter this entire show, but we haven't actually crossed the line, so it's been good. Okay, so we had the benefit of chatting about this off the mic, and we have a few minutes before we introduce our sponsor. You and I were talking about my journey, which is I've often spent a lot of resources and allocated a lot of resources towards marketing for building my brand and awareness externally, which I love to do because it's creative and it's fun and I see so much value in it. But at the same time, I feel like maybe I could have allocated those resources into areas, especially newly starting out a business, and started allocating some of those resources into other areas, like for me, maybe lead generation or other things because you can have a fantastically beautiful brand with an amazing mission statement, but if you're not generating revenue to support it, then it can get complicated, right? So what are some of the marketing fallacies or myths, if you will, that people spend money on when they're first starting out that maybe they could save those resources and allocate them somewhere more efficiently?
Wow, that opens a big Pandora's box, but in all reality, there's so many things that people will say, if I only knew this when I got started, I could have, you know, and end that sentence with made more money, been more successful, you know, not lost my business, you know, got profitable faster, you know, you name it, it's there. But the golden rules of that generally are this. You have to start with knowing what you want to do, what you stand for, and what your realistic goals are. And then you have to budget for them. So I think it's really simple in today's world. You know, if you're a business owner, and especially if you have any social media presence at all, you're getting hit every day by the get-rich-quick scheme, the we can market for you, you know, give us $5,000 and we'll make your brand $1 billion. You hear that every single day, and people fall into those traps quite often. And I think you said it early on, the show is educational. The first thing to do is educate yourself. So the thing that I learned is don't take those things on face value. Understand what successes they've had with other people in the same type of products or services you offer, and then make a determination whether you want to learn it and do it yourself or whether you want to learn enough and have someone else do it for you. So I've spent a lot of money in my career helping people, and I've made a lot of money that way as well, but I've spent it myself making those mistakes. You know, doing the first thing that you do is, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get out there and I'm going to do a blitz campaign, and I'm going to get out there and tell everybody about it, and I'm going to spend all my money in the first week, and that's what I'm going to do. That's the number one mistake that people make. Take the budget and peanut butter spread it over time. There is no get rich quick. There is nothing that comes out of well, I can't say there's nothing, but unicorns happen, but they're very infrequent. I've only seen a couple of them in my life. You know, it takes time. You know, the golden rule is always, I'm a 20-year overnight success, right? That is all the truth of the matter. It doesn't happen overnight. You hear about it occasionally. You know, I invented the pet rock, and, you know, I made $1 billion. That's such a unicorn. It's really all about hard work. So I say don't blitz it out there. Budget it and test. The second thing that I've learned
before we get to testing, we're going to test you out here because we're going to go to our sponsor. We'll be right back.
Fantastic.
Stephanie, are you there?
I am. I wanted to hear about the testing.
Well, the testing is very, very important. We're going to learn all about testing, and it's not like going to, taking your SATs, standard admission test, if they even do those anymore. Who knows anymore? Right. So, first question, Stephanie. Where's the drum roll? No drum roll, nothing. He's just a sponsor. I mean, come on. All right. So, can I get a drum roll? No drum roll. All right. So, he's trying to think. I don't know what that was. I have no clue what that was. Anyway. So I know you're one of the sponsors, and so the first question is, what is Albany Farms? Because, as I always tell everybody, I went to the Kentucky Derby, and I had all these horses from all these different farms, and I want to know, are you selling horses?
No.
Albany Farms doesn't sell horses?
Cool.
Maybe you should pivot. Maybe you need to pivot. All right, so what is Albany Farms doing?
Yeah, we're actually manufacturing ramen noodles in Bellevue, South Dakota. So no horses, just ramen noodles.
Well, first question, almost every listener on our show is going to go is, where is Bill Poosh? Is that like Where's Waldo? Like Where's Waldo?
Kind of, sort of. Well, it's the center of the state, so it's actually really interesting. And the regional airport is actually going to be Rapid City, so it's about an hour from the airport.
And it's in South Dakota near Wyoming, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And the other company that sponsors our show is called Legal Steps, and it's spelled LEGALSTEPZ, because just like Brien spelled with an E, Steps is spelled with a Z. People just don't know how to spell. Alex brought that up to me one time. He said, don't you ever use autocorrect? Well, I guess we don't. So what is Legal Steps? Because I keep on thinking of, those are the footsteps to the courthouse, because it's got legal in there, and I'm thinking about the steps to the courthouse. So is that what Legal Steps is?
No, it's not physical steps at all. What it is a do-it-yourself system to handle legal issues, such as forming a business in California, or even registering a federal trademark. It is fairly user-friendly, or completely user-friendly. I've taken one of the courses, and so I can definitely endorse, them to entrepreneurs who are looking for this sort of resource.
Well, that was interesting, and the fact that you did give a testimonial and did write something about it, that's actually what we talked about in the beginning of our show today about reviews. So actually kind of merged in there with that. Unfortunately, went over with our last guest, so we do have to go. So I'm teary-eyed. No teary-eyed. I guess he doesn't have anything for that. Do you have any teary-eyed thing? Nothing for teary-eyed. All right. So my eyes are tearing. We got to go because we got to get back to the show because we only have 6 more minutes before 5 minutes. Before. Thanks a lot. Ta-ta-ta. Thank you very much, Steph. Wow, that was a big cutoff. Okay. Alex. Are you there?
Yeah, hang on. I'm going to have some ramen. Lunch sounds really good, so thank you.
I thought you were taking the Legal Steps course, and you're going to tell me how hard it was. All right.
I took that. It was easy, actually. I think I would. I wish I knew that when I started my first business.
Yeah, but then you could have saved $5,000. Why would you want to save $5,000? Better off to spend the money on attorneys.
I honestly paid $2,395 to an attorney to incorporate my first business, and then another $3,000 to get them going. So I do know people's pain on that, and that I could have spent in marketing, to be perfectly honest.
But you wouldn't have, have blitzed, because that's what you told us earlier. You wouldn't have blitzed it. You would have spread it out.
No, but it would have gone. It would have gone on my budget. I think I had to put that first lawyer's fee on a credit card, just so you know, starting my first business.
You're lucky they even took credit cards.
That was painful.
Anyway, Traci, you were talking to Traci and you're mentioning testing. So testing was the other part of the question. I don't want to go through it again because, again, we have 3 minutes before the next break. So the other concept you were mentioning was testing.
Yeah, it's really, really simple. It's another rule of marketing, maybe marketing 202, is know thy audience. So we all think, we start a business, we all think we know who the target customer is. We know who the ideal customer profile, as we call it, the ICP is. But we really don't know. And the only way we know, and the only way we know what connects with the audience, is to test. So I tell people all the time, you think it's a great marketing campaign, you think it's the best in the world, it appeals to you, but you're not the audience. So now it's time to get some different ideas and start testing. And then you'll know which ones work and which ones don't, which ones connect. And then testing is a constant thing as well. It's not just well, I'm going to run this ad campaign over time, or I'm going to have this messaging over time, the messaging can change, the ads can change. Let's face it, the world is a different place, today than it was 6 months ago. If you're thinking about 2 years ago, 6 months, 3 years ago, you can't stay with the same messaging that you've had. So we had a pandemic thing; it changed everybody's messaging, right?
So don't squeeze the Charmin, right?
Right. No, you don't squeeze that Charmin when you got a pandemic.
No, but that was a big campaign.
Without a mask.
But that was a big campaign like 50 years ago. Don't squeeze the Charmin. Now people are looking at me like, what did I take today? Because they don't know what I'm talking about, right?
I constantly hear you say plop, plop, fizz, fizz. What do I know?
Alka-Seltzer, that's what it is. All right, go ahead.
There you go. So I think that testing is really important. So getting your ideas out there and having them test quickly to smaller audiences and in target areas will tell you where you should or should not spend money. I think that's a mistake that Traci mentioned. How would you save money? What mistakes would you not make? One of the biggest mistakes that people make is they go, I got it. This is the perfect idea. It's going to connect, and it doesn't work. And, I'll relate this back to, when I was younger, we listened to a lot of different rock bands, if you want to call them those. And they always had that number one single that they put as the number one single on the album. They released the album or the CD before they got radio play. And it was always like the B-side that might have hit, or it was the fourth song on the record that might have hit. They were 100% sure it was that first song on the record, and really it was the fourth song. So you never know with your audience what's going to connect, where it's going to connect, and how. So testing is an important thing to do.
Thanks a lot. We're going to be taking a break. You're listening to KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM. Welcome back. You're listening to the Ask Brien radio show on KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM with our guest, Alex Grossman. Traci, over to you.
All right. Well, you've provided so many great tips, and I honestly wish that we could just literally talk for a whole other hour, but we can't. But if someone wanted to continue this conversation with you, what would be the best way for them to reach out and connect, to continue asking you questions about your amazing resources and insights?
Well, Traci, I'm always available to answer any questions, and I do help some companies with their problems they have in getting their name out there in marketing. And the easiest way to reach me is alexformedia.com. So it's alex@alexformedia. That's the number 4 media.com. And yes, Brian, I didn't use the spell check. I put a number 4 in there. Yes, thank you.
I just thought you couldn't spell, but that's okay. It was the autocorrect on Apple, right? I got it. No problem.
Exactly.
I use the same one for Ask Brien and Legal Steps, by the way.
There you go.
Well, my first business was incorporated as 3DM with the number 3, so I get it. But I always spelled it out for the website URL, THREEDM. But anyway, okay, so for all these URLs that are flying around and email addresses, and then also to retroactively capture all of the great insights that you shared about the 3-legged marketing stool, we are going to have all of this available for you as a podcast episode. And, of course, it's the Ask Brien podcast. That's AskBrien. This episode will be live and available on all of the platforms where you find your favorite podcast. And most importantly to note is that all of the details are in the show notes. So Alex's email address and the resources and things that were shared, sponsor mentions and links, and all of those things are available to you. So don't stop in traffic to have to write it down. Just go find the podcast, download it, and listen to us. And we're always grateful for a little review, 5-star if you please, on that platform. So thank you so much. Peter?
Thanks, Traci. So you can go to any place to get the podcast, Spotify, Apple, wherever you want, right?
Wherever you want. It's on iHeartMedia, Spotify, Apple, SiriusXM, Pandora, you name it. You can find it wherever you listen to your podcast.
Okay, that's great. Thanks a lot, Trace. Alex, so the question we have, and the switchboard's been lit up, bing, 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 and everyone's asking the same question. So you went over the 3-step stool here of all the different ways of testing and marketing, et cetera, and people are asking, well, how long do I do it to know whether or not it's working?
That is one of the questions that we get all the time. When should I see positive results? Well, sometimes you're going to see results in a day. Sometimes you're going to see them in a week. Sometimes you're going to see them in a month. It depends. And usually we say any campaign that you run, before you can do the metrics on the campaign, look at the performance, the key performance indicators that came out of that campaign, it's really 3 months minimal. And I know people are excited and they go, I need results today, I need it tomorrow. But you're going to start seeing results. It's the conversion rate. It's really a lead to a sale conversion that can take time. And, if you hit it right, your A/B testing is, say, the first 30 days, you should see results in the first couple of days. If you don't see any leads coming through in a week, I'd look at what you're doing and take a really, really good back step and go, am I doing the right thing because I'm making a mistake? But 3 months is where we say you can go evaluate it and go, did I do a good job or not?
Well, that's interesting. I think most business people would think less than that, but so that's a very good criteria. Now, you're focusing solely on digital marketing, right? But the furniture store, how are they going to know whether or not their marketing is working? Because remember, they have that little shop there, and they have a couple of reviews on Yelp, and you're going to buy a bed every 20 years. So I mean, how do they know?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's foot traffic, and it's really asking your customers, how'd you hear about us? What made you stop in today? What are you looking for? People will usually answer those questions. They love to talk about themselves. I mean, I think a sandwich board out front that says sale is a win for any, if you're legally allowed to do that, depending on the city you're in, is a win for any business. Sale or special, any of those words that just turn people on, save 10% only this week, save 40% now. Those things work. They generally make people do it. Amazon does something called Prime Days where you're probably not getting a better deal than any other day of the year on 90% of the products, yet people buy the things that aren't on the Prime Day sale just because of the frenzy that happens. It's like the lottery, $1.55 billion or whatever it was last week. Yes, I bought a ticket, and I haven't bought a ticket in 5 years.
And you didn't win?
There we go.
You didn't win?
I didn't win, unfortunately. If I did, I probably wouldn't be talking to you.
Thanks a lot. All right, we got to go.
Well, not on this venue. Thank you.
We got to go. I just want to say one last thing that you mentioned. McDonald's has over 5 billion or over 10 billion served, so that's probably a good marketing thing that they're doing. Thanks a lot, Alex. We'll be talking to you soon. You're listening to the Ask Brien Radio Show on KHTS 1220, 98.1 FM. Over and out.